right. Where we're going today kind of starts with something that I'm sure, if you've never kind of actively noticed, I'm sure, like once you think about it for half a second, you say, "Oh yeah, that's true." We know from our, our time together so far, that the United States historically has been a very religious country. We've seen from colonial America the influence of religion. And we also know that today America is a lot less religious than it used to be. So that kind of begs a question. The hell happened? Today we're going to talk about the hell happened. Okay? So to start, we kind of need to start with a quick review about traditional American Christianity. And we're gonna draw a big old chart today. Okay? Traditional American Christianity. Where, here's a little bit of a review. Where is kind of traditional American, where is specifically American Christianity born? Where do we start kind of having a American Christianity that is different from the Christianity that the colonists brought over from England? Because we had Puritans, we had Quakers, but all of those developed in Europe. When, and we talked about this at some length, Great Awakening, First Great Awakening. First Great Awakening, as a brief review, establishes American Christianity, and this is the phrase we used back in September, as moralistic, not creedal. And who remembers what that means? What is creed? What you believe. Creed is the specifics of religion. And the example that we gave all the way back when we were talking about the Great Awakening was if you walk into a Catholic church and say, "Father, what is the Catholic Church's teaching on transubstantiation?" he will have an answer for you. And if you walk into a Lutheran church and ask the minister the same question, he has an answer for you. When you, as a Catholic, take communion, Catholic creed says you are actually eating the body and blood of Christ. It's not a fake, it's not a substitute, it is the thing. And how it becomes that thing from the wafer and the wine is a process called transubstantiation. That's creed. And creed is what Europeans are busy killing each other over and persecuting each other over and discriminating each other based on for a long, long time. For a lot of reasons, people get to America, and one of the things that the First Great Awakening does is it washes away the importance of creed. It doesn't get rid of it. Like I said, walk into any Lutheran church, they'll tell you what how many, baptism and marriage and confirmation are all sacraments.
7.
They'll tell you, well, in Catholicism there's 7, in Lutheranism there's 3. That's creed. The Lutheran minister will tell you there are 3 sacraments according to Lutheran belief. The Catholic priest will tell you 7. That's creed. Those differences in America became less important during the First Great Awakening. And what replaced that, what you heard when you went to church, became not creedal, but moralistic. Meaning that the churches were focused on what? Morals. How to live. What does it mean to be righteous? What does it mean to live a godly life as free from sin as you can? And what we're going to sit here and do, and here's the trick, here's the important thing about the First Great Awakening. Regardless of the creed, the morals were pretty much the same. So the Lutherans and the Presbyterians were kind of preaching the same morals. The Methodists and the Episcopalians were pretty much despite their creedal differences, the creed was not the focus. The focus was the morals. And what kind of good, serious morals were imbued in the American population by American Christianity? I bet we can make a good, long list. Okay, don't murder. That goes without saying. What else? What does it mean to be righteous? What does it mean to be moral in American life? How are you supposed to live? Honor the parents. Honor your parents. Okay? When Dad says do something, you do it. What else?
Don't kill people.
Goes without saying.
I just said that.
Oh, we did it? Oh,
What?
I kind of just popped it.
Go law. Okay.
Don't steal.
What?
Respect authority.
Respect authority.
Nothing.
I like that one. Respect the authority of the teacher, the police officer, the priest, the minister, the governor, the mayor, the alderman, that you are supposed to respect authority. Okay, what else? Be true to your word. Stop giving me, so much Oprah-fied, namsy-pamsy. I need some good, serious strictures about what it means to be moral.
Don't drink on Sundays.
Honor, more than that, how about keep the Sabbath?
Okay.
Keep the Sabbath. Sunday is a day of rest. It is not a day of shopping. You go to church, and you spend the rest of the day hanging out with friends and family. Most places in the United States until the 1960s were closed on Sundays. Paramus is still that way. Go drive down, Route 17 in Paramus on Sunday, the whole town is closed. Most places in the United States were like that. If God took one day off, God, you can too. Honor, keep the Sabbath. What else? Oh, come on. No adultery. No divorce. Get and stay married.
No abortion.
No what?
Abortion, pro-life.
Abortion. No sex before marriage. No drinking. No dancing.
Yeah, I don't like the dancing one.
No makeup.
Wait a second though. But wasn't there people in the actual Bible that danced? And they were like, it's a good thing because they dance?
No smoking. Drinking, dancing, makeup, smoking. Makeup is a sign of vanity. Dancing is an outward sign of sexuality outside of marriage. When people dance in the Bible, why are they dancing?
In the name of the Lord.
They dance it's a method to get a husband. How does Moses pick his wife? Anyone ever bother reading Exodus? How does Moses pick his wife? She's the nicest dancer of all the sisters. Moses goes into the tent of the Bedouin, and he says, "Here, check out all my daughters." And they come in and they all dance, and Moses says, "You!" That's Miriam, Moses' wife.
Did you have to disclosure?
I'm sorry?
Did you have disclosure?
Not in America. That's a Jewish thing. Gotcha.
Students on the swim team, the bus is here. Can you please come down to the off seats? Students on the swim team, the bus is here.
How about no profanity? What does the word profane mean? Profane is the opposite of what? What is profane the opposite of? sacred. No profanity. Do not take the Lord's name in vain. Dancing and make no... This, no adultery, no divorce, no sex before marriage, watch the makeup and the dancing and the drinking and the smoking. This is, be generous with your time, be generous with your money. This is what it means in the United States to be a moral person for a very long time. This was the standard by which people lived. Are these laws? Are these laws? No, these are not laws. I mean, some of them are. There's laws against abortion. There's not laws against dancing and wearing makeup. What maintains these rules? What maintains them? Social norms. We've talked about social norms a million times in here. These rules are maintained by social norms. And why is that the case? Because most Americans, until the Second Industrial Revolution, lived where?
Farms.
On farms and in small towns. In a small town, there's a lot of awesome things about living in a small town, there's a lot of awful things about living in a small town. When you live in a small town, maybe 2,000 people, there's a small town and there's surrounding farming communities. On Sunday, all the farmers come into town, they go to church, and they spend the rest of the day hanging out in town. On Sunday night, they go back, and they spend the rest of the week, out in their fields farming. But in a small town, everybody knows everybody. That's one of the things about living in a town of 2,000 people or 3,000 people. Imagine if your whole town was, 2 upper academies. You'd know everyone, and everyone would know you. And there are no secrets in a small town. So when Ryan doesn't show up to church on Sunday, everyone's like, where the hell's Ryan? What's he doing that's so important? And all the wives start to talk about, where's Ryan's wife? Everything okay? How come I didn't see you at church? Are you all right? And then Ryan doesn't go to church the next week, and now kind of people are walking through town and I don't know about Ryan. You hear anything about Ryan? You think everything's okay with Ryan? Now, if Ryan goes to church every Sunday and he's an upstanding member of his community, the whole town is going to know him as one of the pillars of the community. He doesn't have to buy drinks at the local bars. If you stay, within the boundaries of these social expectations, small town life can be wonderful. Everybody knows everybody. No one ever locks their doors. You send your kids, you let them walk 5 miles to school because you know that the whole way over, moms are sitting in kitchen windows watching your kids walk by, making sure that they're safe. Why? Because you know her. She knows you. Your kids know each other. You went to grade school together. There's a level of implicit trust amongst the people who live in that small town. Makes it hard for outsiders to come in. But if you follow and if you're kind of cool with this social structure, it can be a very comfortable, peaceful life. Where you're born, you know that you're going to farm a piece of land, and that every Sunday you're going to go to church and see the same friends that you always see. people this is a nice life. And it's a nice life for millions upon millions of people who lived it in American history. The problem starts to be is when you push back against these social norms, or when you do things that violate the spirit of this small, tight-knit, very closed community. If Jose and Ariel are high school sweethearts, if Jose and Ariel are high school sweethearts and they let biology get the best of them, and Jose at 17 years old has a pregnant girlfriend, what is no birth control? We can add that. What's the social expectation when Ryan gets Ariel pregnant?
Right, that's Jose.
Jose.
Right.
Or when you.
Oh,
What's the social expectation? What's the social expectation when Jose ends up with a pregnant high school girlfriend?
Shotgun.
Marry her. You drop out of school, you get a job, and you support her and your child. And that's the social expectation. It's called a shotgun wedding. Why is it called a shotgun wedding?
The dad has a shotgun.
Right, because if you don't marry her, Dad's going to shoot you with a shotgun. That's the social expectation. And if people will, but if Jose is expected to man up to his responsibility, and if he does, he will remain an accepted member of this community. Look, you made a mistake, you sinned, but you manned up, and you did what you're supposed to do. Well, if Jose chooses, takes one look at her mom and says, oh my God, this is what she's going to be like in 30 years, I can't handle it. Or if Jose says, ladies, all of you will turn into your mom.
Yeah.
Watch your mom turn into your grandmother. Do you see it happening already?
Yo, I see.
You will. As your mom gets older, you will. I say to my mother, I said, Mom, shut up, you sound like Grandma. Oh yeah. Or if Jose says, there's only one night thing, I don't care about it. But you said you loved me! What's socially, what will happen to Jose? He's going to be cast out of town. We are going to make it clear to Jose that he is no longer welcome here. And that if he's not going to man up, if he's not going to fulfill his social responsibility of marrying the girl that he's impregnated, then he is not welcome here. And Jose will be asked to go and not really ever to come back very much. And for the rest of the time, parents at home, when their 14-year-olds go to the little high school sock hop, are going to be like, you remember that Jose and what happened when you think you want to be doing, and he'll become an example for the rest of town. Don't be like Jose.
Don't be that.
No, don't be a Jose.
Don't be Jose. Exactly.
Don't be that guy.
Now, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. What's going to happen? What happens to Ariel? This is a lot more interesting, actually.
She has a kid and she has to work for herself.
What the hell's she going to do?
Oh yeah, right. She's a woman.
People are what? People are not going to feel sorry for her. Why are people not going to feel sorry for her? Well, she spread her legs. And she shouldn't have done that. Why? It's a sin.
He started laughing when he was laughing.
That if Ariel had just listened and had not sinned, she would not have found herself in this predicament. So actually, I'll tell you what would happen. In, not always, but would happen very often. Is that the day Ariel started to show, she would be packed off to the nearest sizable town or city, where she would spend the next several months at a home for unwed mothers. And at the home for unwed mothers, who were producing bastard children, she would stay there as to not shame her parents in town. She would deliver her baby, and that baby would be put up for adoption. She would go back to town, and then for a very long time, people would be like, she's not going to be a particularly good marriageable prospect. Why? Because you're not expected to have sex before marriage. Who's going to want to marry someone who spread her legs for that nasty Jose that left 5 years ago? That Ariel's life is not going to be socially easy. At all. It's not like she can, drop most women, it wasn't like she could move to the city and become an advertising executive. She was going to have a rough go of it. Now, the baby is another actually very interesting case. I didn't even know this existed until I was doing some research on my own family. What they would do with a lot of the orphans is actually very, very cool. It's very cool. Orphanages were common in those days. A lot of mothers still died in childbirth fairly often. A lot of unwed mothers who could not support their babies, without the father, would give children up for adoption. So actually, what they would do is they had these things called orphan trains, which is exactly what it sounds like. They would empty out the orphanages, put the orphans on trains, advertise, and drive the trains through farm country, and at every town the train would stop, and if you wanted an orphan, you can come to the train station and take one home with you. Yes, orphan trains. There's an Orlando painting of this. It was a common thing out west, orphan trains. It's hard for us to imagine. There's no background checks. No one's making sure the parents are going to be good parents, but that's what a community does. So when the orphan train comes through, anyone who's interested in adopting a kid is going to come down, but so is everyone in town who wants to make sure that the person who shouldn't be adopting kids doesn't. And nosy old Mrs. Jones is going to be standing there at the train station being all judgmental on everybody. And that's the means by which the kids were protected from people who shouldn't be adopting them. Ms. Jones, no, you shouldn't be taking any kid. You see that? You see that? And the social pressure would make that happen. It's hard for us to imagine a life where things are that informal, but that's how it was. And I learned about this whole orphan train thing. One of my wife's grandmother had a sister who married an orphan train boy. He was born to a German immigrant named Adolfina Stolverkis, which is a great name, Adolfina Stolverkis, in New York, and was adopted at 3 years old by the Horseman family out in Missouri. And he was put on a train with all the other orphans, and the Horseman family said it was a great way for farm families with few children to get more help. We've talked about this at length. On a farm, kids are cheap and useful. In town, kids are useless and expensive. But that's what they did with a lot of the orphans. That they were spread out to the whole. It was a very neat thing to learn about. Point is that American small-town life, Christianity is the driving social force. It's the moral force. It's what keeps everybody in line. And as long as you were cool with being in line, then life was very pleasant. It was less pleasant, obviously, for people who like to push boundaries. So this is kind of our intro. What's going to change is urbanization. Remember, this whole unit is about industrialization and its effects. Industrialization leads to urbanization. Well, there's a couple things that are going on. There's in Christianity in urban America. The first thing is this. What is the biggest difference between living in a small town and living in a big city? The biggest difference. What? Privacy. Anonymity. If that's what you said, I was right. In the small town, when Ryan doesn't show up to church, people talk. In the big city, when Ryan doesn't show up to church, nobody knows. In theory, he could have gone to another Lutheran church 4 blocks away. We don't know. Ryan no longer feels this social pressure, or at least he doesn't feel as much social pressure to go to church on Sunday. He's also dealing with the churches have competition. In our small town on Sunday morning, there's one thing going on. Church. Nothing is open because everybody is at church. Well, in the city, Ryan sits there and says, you know, I could go to church. Or I go buy coffee. Or I go to the Yankee game. 25 cents for a ticket to the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. Do it start. I couldn't make it if I go to church. The churches have competition. The churches have to start to work to put asses in seats. Back in a small town, the church doesn't have to work to put asses in seats. In the city, the church has to say, we want to make Ryan come to church. He doesn't feel the same social pressure to go regardless. And the third thing that's kind of going on is other urban problems. That everyone in the city knows about all the stuff that we've been talking about, the poverty, the sickness, the poor, all the stuff that we've been talking about, problems with American industrialization. This is going to make, for these reasons, it's going to make for a very different style of Christianity. And the style's going to kind of lose one type of focus and gain another. Let's say Ryan, as we all are, is a sinner.
Yay.
We are all sinners.
I mean,
And if you say you're not a sinner, that's the sin of problem. So, yeah.
I had a question about like stores at the time. Did they ever like close down like at midday for like lunch breaks?
No, that's a Spanish thing.
yeah.
Americans work through the day.
No, because in Portugal.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
that's
a Latin
Spanish.
thing, yeah.
No, that's not even European, because like that's
Well,
Spain.
yes.
And Guatemala, they don't do that. They
Oh, really?
They eat while they at the desk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what we don't do that.
No, the midday break is a very Iberian,
Yeah.
Mediterranean thing,
Yeah.
Americans don't.
Western.
That's why there's that great Cadillac commercial.
Oh yeah, about no. It's kind of like rude.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious. I love that commercial.
No, it was just like yeah. Oh yeah, about like we only get 2 weeks and they get like a whole month in August.
Yeah, that one, yeah. I love that word. He cracks me up. So what we're going to do here, folks, and if we have time, we'll watch the commercial part. What we're doing here, folks, is that we're going to lose one focus of Christianity, or reduce one focus of Christianity and increase another focus of urban Christianity. If we have to work to put Ryan in the seat, Ryan is probably not going to want to sit there and have the preacher say, this what you're doing is a sin, this what you're doing is a sin, that what you're doing is a sin, this what you're doing is a sin. If I sit there and Ryan chose to come here, remember, he had other choices. Ryan chose to come here, and my entire sermon is about how you are going to hell.
I mean, I am.
What are you going to do next week? Not come. Ryan's not going to come next week. He's going to say, screw that, man.
I don't want to be yelled at.
I don't want to be yelled at and told I'm going to burn in hell for all eternity on my day off. I'm going to the Yankee game. I'm going to the coffee shop. We'll get a pizza. And the church is going to lose Ryan. And the church needs Ryan because Ryan's the one paying the dues to support the church. The fact that the churches have competition is going to mean we have less emphasis on personal sin. Ryan was out, dancing at the club on Saturday night, flirting with some girls. He don't want to hear that all of this was a big old sin from start to finish, top to bottom, when he gets to church on Sunday morning. And he has that option on Saturday now. He's living in the city. He's young. He's funny. Some people here and there believe he's an attractive young man. We're going to emphasize personal sin less. And what we're going to emphasize more are these other problems. That you're not going to go to church and the guy's not going to say, you know what, Ryan, it's okay that you do X, Y, and Z. We're just not going to talk about it much. The guy's, all right, don't sin. Awesome, good, good, good. We're all on the same page. Sin is bad. Moving on. And what do we move on to?
What we should do.
We move on to how can we reform society? Now, you know what, Ryan? You shouldn't be doing all these sins, but guess what? Ryan's going to, he helps the homeless. And that's what God wants. When, just let me know when, approximately when. Yeah, here's right now, right? Yeah, no, I mean, I'll take them through, talk about their discussion videos online, lectures they have to watch online. Yeah, kind of what they have.
You gotta sing. I don't like singing. I don't like singing. Can I not sing with him?
Yeah.
I don't sing
Just FYI, there's going to be a bunch of people here tomorrow, 7th period, who want to know all about how much you love the computers and what we do on the computers.
We do everything on the computers.
No, honestly, I want you to talk about the discussions you have on Sunday, puff those up, talk about how you do your work on the computer. I have no idea, they're coming 7th period, so that's you, so, whatever. You can look at cartoons from Doonhouse online. Like, look, I will not put on dog and pony shows for these people. Okay, I will not do it. I'm not going to make up tonight a computer lesson that we can all do tomorrow, so they walk away and say, "Wow, what a great teacher doing technology." I will not do that. I refuse to do that. But I'm just telling you, guys, that they are going to want to talk to you. They're going to talk to you how you use the computer. You know, everything's on Blackboard, just you know how we use the computer. So I'm not making anything up, but just FYI. Anyway, back to important things. Our Christianity is going to move from a focus on personal sin to a focus on reforming society. There are problems in society. Good Christians work to solve these problems. And the discussion about what Ryan is doing on Saturday night is not a discussion that we really have much anymore. We give this concept kind of a name. We're going to call this, for the purposes of your class, liberal Protestantism. Liberal Protestantism. This is still the same Methodists, Presbyterians, Baptists, Lutherans, Episcopalians that we have in traditional America. The creed is the same, but the focus on morality is different. The focus of the church is different. This is liberal Protestantism. And this is the driving force of urban Christianity for 70, 80 years, a long time. People are still going to church in large numbers, but they're not so much hearing about sin anymore. They're hearing a lot more about let's help the homeless, which is awesome. It's just different from what had come before. In time, this also starts to die out. Well, before it dies out. Liberal Protestantism is still a fact, much smaller than it used to be. We'll talk about that, of American life. A lot of American liberal Protestants moved to what's called Unitarianism. There are Unitarian churches. Basically, Unitarianism is Christianity without much Jesus. Uni meaning one. Unitarians reject the concept of the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and say there's only one God. Jesus was a really cool guy, but he was not divine. He was not the Son of God. That's Unitarianism. Unitarianism, over time, people say, nah. And people start to move to what's called agnosticism. Anyone know what it means to be agnostic?
To believe that there's a God, but not necessarily an organized religion.
Right, that you're not a member of an organized church. God exists, he's out there, cool, awesome. He wants us to be good, I'll be good, and that's kind of the extent of my religious belief.
Yeah.
Agnosticism. It's the recognition that there is something out there, but I'm not going to sit here and go to church, and I don't know if I believe that, God created the world in 6 days, and if God came down in a big pillar of smoke and fire, and I don't know about all that stuff.
Yeah, same.
It's agnosticism. And from agnosticism, it's a very short jump to atheism, which is simply the active disbelief in God. There is no God. God does not exist. Now, here's the interesting thing, though. While all of this is going on, they're still up here. Our traditional Christians are still going strong. They're still going. There are still large parts of America where a much more traditional Christianity still reigns. Up to the present day. This is where you're going to draw your anti-abortion people. You're going to draw the people opposed to same-sex marriage. Opposed to, a lot of things that they say violates in some way this basic understood morality that we have had for a very long time. show you something. Well. Now, here's our liberal Protestantism. Unitarians are not great. One of the things, is that a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So you're saying that around the time period that atheism was...
No, this is on as time goes on. So where we're looking here, let's put some dates on this. Let's do a little periodization. The emergence of liberal Protestantism, the first kind of break off from traditional American Christianity, takes place during the great period of urbanization. So we'll put a date on that. We'll say liberal Protestantism 1870 to about 1960 is its heyday, its peak. All the while, this is still going on. That's why we're kind of drawing the arrows. You know, they're all happening at the same time. They're happening in different places. This is a geographic issue. That liberal Protestantism is the realm of urban America, suburban America. I'm sorry? No, go ahead. Yeah.
So when urbanization grows,
So does liberal Protestantism, you're absolutely right. That our traditional Christianity remains the Christianity of rural America, small town America. Not everybody's moving to the cities. Lots of people are. A majority of people are by 1920. But you still have millions of Americans that do not live there and still don't. One of the things that we're going to look at on a fairly consistent basis between now and the end of the year is the ongoing divide between elite Americans in the cultural sense and traditional Americans in a cultural sense. Not elite in terms of wealth, but elite in terms of kind of cultural, social standing. When we talk about these people, this is the creative class. These are the people, the elites, culturally, are the people who make our movies, make our television shows, write our music. And those people that create culture come from the elite part of America. If you are a television producer, you don't live in Topeka, Kansas. If you're a television producer, you live in New York or LA. And that's it. If you write plays, you don't live in Peoria, Illinois. You live in New York or Boston, where the creative elites live. The divide between culturally elite America and traditional America is one of the things that we are going to be looking at from now to the end of the year. It's this divide that's at the heart of the Scopes monkey trial. The Scopes monkey trial, quite frankly, is nothing but an excuse for elite people to laugh at traditional people. Ha ha ha! Look at the dumb rednecks.
Yeah.
That's all it is. There's a lot of that. The disdain for ordinary traditional America amongst American elites. Question. What today?
No, can I get coffee
Can
today?
you get a coffee today? Angela, should we let Ryan go get a coffee today?
Sure.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah. You're number one. There we go. Thank you.
The real MVP.
The real MVP.
Now, to kind of finish this up, traditional American Christianity, most of it has made some peace with modern times. But there is and we're going to see these people again when we talk about the rise of the new Republican Party. Social conservatives, traditionalists, people who believe that the America of this is an America lost from its moral foundations. We're going to talk about Jerry Falwell, the moral majority, etc., etc. Now, what's happened with these groups? In the last 60 years, liberal Protestantism has died. Unitarianism has died, while agnosticism and atheism have grown. And there's a couple reasons for the decline of religious belief amongst American elites. First is the growing, and now it's very, very powerful, cultural idea that a church has very little influence on how I should live my life. That we have taken as the most important virtue, the virtue to do what you want to do. If it feels good, do it as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. That's kind of become our mode of thinking. And as more and more people say, I'm going to do what I want to do as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, there's less and less need for a religious foundation to that. The second reason that these kind of middle road Christianities die, and they've died, that the mainline Protestant denominations have lost 90% of their membership since 1960. That's a massive cultural change in the United States. The other reason is that things that the church used to provide answers for, science started to. I'll give you an example. Not obvious things like, where did dinosaurs come from? But things like, why is there evil in the world? I'm sure that all of you, at one point or another, have sat down and said, why does evil exist? Why does bad stuff happen to good people? We've all asked those questions. Well, it used to be the question, why does evil exist, was a question that the Bible provided a very clear and obvious answer for. Evil exists, because Satan and God are locked in this battle. Satan wants your soul, and he's going to tempt you in order to get there. How do we know this? Well, man is a fallen creature. God creates the Garden of Eden. He makes it perfect for everyone, and literally the first frickin' thing that they do, God schmott, I'll do whatever the hell I want, is the first thing! Man is a fallen creature. That's why we do bad things. Well, and that's good for some people. But science starts to provide its answers too. It has nothing to do with Adam and Eve. There's a chemical imbalance in your brain. Mental illness. You were raised in poverty. That what science is going to start to, I don't care whether they're right or wrong. The point is that science is going to start to provide answers for things that the church traditionally provided answers for. So if you've lost your reason to go to church because you're just going to do whatever the hell it is you want to do, if it feels good and it doesn't hurt anybody else, and then, if I want to know why there's evil, I'll read the Journal of Psychology Today and not the book of Genesis, there's no reason for you to ever go to church again. And the churches are going to lose their power and their influence. Even these liberal churches lose their power and their influence. And they are replaced with a lot of Americans with a spirit of agnosticism. Yeah, God's out there, awesome, I'll do what's good, and He'll love me forever for it. Or, straight up, we're just a function of chemical reactions in our brain and no more and no less. The cultural conflict between these groups and this group is a major part of American politics today. And that's how it got here. This is not something that starts on Tuesday, 1870, and ends Thursday, 1950. This is something that happens individual by individual over a period of many generations and many, many decades. But it is something that happens nonetheless. And this is how elite America lost religion. And what's interesting is the rest of the country didn't. And that's what makes the United States very different from most other industrialized countries. Go to France, only about 20% of Frenchmen believe in God. Or maybe 50% believe in God and 20% are even show up to church at least once a year. 20%. The United States is different. About 90% of Americans believe in God, and about 70% of Americans go to church at least once a year. About 30% of Americans go to church on the average of several times a month. We are a much more religious country than any other industrialized country in the world, and our religion has remained more of this traditional moral Christianity. We don't see much in elite America, but travel through Black America, Hispanic America, rural America, small town America, and it's still there. It's just not in elite America anymore. It's a very, very interesting, that we can look at a lot of things that happened. We look at a lot of things in the 1920s. We can look at a lot of things like Prohibition. We can look at a lot of things in the 80s, today, on this dichotomy. It's a very interesting and important dichotomy. Any questions on this very interesting and important dichotomy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about atheism,
Right.
my question was, how much did it grow really? Because I don't really believe that it will grow that much.
About 10% of Americans profess not to believe in God. That's 33 million people. Okay? So that's a lot of people. You know? You don't see as much of it because you live in a Portuguese immigrant community. Walk through Harvard, and you're going to find a lot of atheists. Okay? Walk through, the faculty of Rutgers, you're going to find a lot of more atheists in the population than you would find in your Portuguese immigrant Elizabeth community. Don't be blinded by the fact, don't assume, and we all do this to some degree or another, we are all blinded by the circumstances in which we live, and we think that the things that surround us are the things that surround everyone. This is why you all sit here and think that soccer is an incredibly popular American sport. It's not. It's popular here, but it's not popular anywhere else. This is... Hockey is a much more popular American sport than soccer, but you would never know that living in Elizabeth. Hockey in Canada, of course, they go fracking crazy over there.
No, I actually know a Canadian that hates it. He likes basketball.
Basketball was invented in Canada.
Oh.
James Mason. Oh yeah, basketball. Sing Tom tomorrow. The game is Friday. Don't forget. And that's it. I'm done. What's up?
So, what do you think of
All right, I said you're young.
Yeah. So, my parents are like both like
I ruined the day that I brought my impressionable son to America, where he could learn such silly things. Probably precisely what he said. Give it time. Here's go. No atheists in foxholes. First of all. I challenge you to have a child of your own. I find if you don't believe in God. Oh, you want to watch the commercial? Yeah. We'll watch Carmen's commercial.
Didn't I win
he said,
Oh, yeah.
1 hour.
Virtual practice.
Okay, it's not our teacher. I just want to
It was very interesting.
No.
It was very intense.
Turn the light off over there and watch it where it's going.
It was very intense. It's only
Alright, here it is. Oh, wait, let me get the sound.
Oh yeah, that is that guy.
This? For stuff? Other countries they work, stroll home, they stop by the cafe, they take August off. Off. Why are you like that? Why are we like that? Because we're crazy, driven, hard-working believers, that's why. Those other countries think we're nuts. Whatever. The Wright brothers insane, Bill Gates, Les Paul, Ali. Were we nuts when we pointed to the moon? That's right. We went up there, you know what we got? Bored. So we left. Got a car up there, left the keys in it. You know why? Because we're the only ones going back up there, that's why. But I digress. It's pretty simple. You work hard, you create your own luck, and you gotta believe anything is possible. As for all the stuff, that's the upside of only taking 2 weeks off in August. That's fun.
I need to slick some video past.
Wait.
High five.
No, we didn't.
You could study for your syntax now. You got 5 minutes.
Whoa.
Ethan was gonna punch a hole for this. Hi.
This thing's going back there.
No, that's why I stopped. It's okay. No, why would I stop it? It's okay. You're gonna unlock it. Oh my god, you're so.
That's so old.
No, push this side. Right there, you step on it. Pull it this way. Oh, pull it. I did.